In 1964, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 264 hours. That is 11 straight days, all for a science fair project. Over those 11 days, researchers tracked a severe mental decline. Gardner developed intense paranoia. His speech deteriorated into slurred mutters, and he began hallucinating that he was a famous football player. But on the final day, at the absolute peak of his deprivation, Gardner walked into an arcade and beat a Stanford sleep researcher at pinball. After the experiment ended, he slept for just 14 hours and woke up physically fine. If a human can endure 11 days without sleep and recover in a single night, it complicates our understanding of a much more lethal condition, one where sleep loss is a guaranteed death sentence. To see the true limit of human wakefulness, we look at an extremely rare genetic disease called fatal familial insomnia, or FFI. FFI completely strips patients of their biological ability to sleep. The progression of this disease takes an average of 18 months. Patients deteriorate from severe panic attacks and paranoia into dementia, followed by a state called akinetic mutism, where they can no longer move or speak, eventually leading to a coma and death. We need to identify the biological threshold that separates Randy Gardner's 11-day survival from the guaranteed lethal collapse experienced by patients with FFI. Electroencephalograms, or EEGs, are medical tests that measure electrical activity in the brain. When researchers use EEGs to study subjects enduring prolonged wakefulness, they discover that these individuals are never actually 100% awake. This diagram shows a phenomenon known as local sleep. When specific neural networks in the cerebral cortex become exhausted, they generate theta waves, shutting down for fractions of a second, even while the person remains conscious. These uncontrollable microsleeps force neurons to rest in a constant rotation, protecting brain tissue from catastrophic metabolic damage. Randy Gardner survived his science fair project because his brain was quietly cheating. It engaged an involuntary survival mechanism, taking thousands of localized micronaps to prevent him from ever experiencing true, total sleep deprivation. Patients with FFI do not have the luxury of microsleeps. They are physically blocked from accessing any form of sleep, whether local or global. The disease is driven by a genetic mutation that creates rogue prions, misfolded proteins that physically attack and scar a region deep in the brain. This region, the thalamus, acts as the master switch for regulating the body's sleep-wake cycle. As it degrades, it traps the autonomic nervous system in a state of permanent hyperarousal, driving the patient's heart rate and blood pressure to dangerous, unrelenting extremes. Without a functioning thalamus to flip the master rest switch, the body is locked into a terminal waking state. The entire physiological system simply burns itself out. If the brain is trapped in a permanent state of wakefulness, we still have to ask what specific physical mechanism actually kills the organism. A 2020 study from Harvard Medical School set out to map exactly how this death occurs. Researchers took animal models, including fruit flies and mice, and subjected them to lethal levels of sleep deprivation, tracking where the organs began to fail. Despite the extreme sleep loss, the animal's brain tissue remained remarkably intact. Instead, a massive spike of lethal toxicity had accumulated exclusively in their intestines. The culprit was a buildup of reactive oxygen species, or ROS. These are highly unstable molecules that rapidly multiply during prolonged wakefulness and violently tear apart the cellular lining of the gut. Death from severe sleep restriction is not a neurological failure. It is a fatal, systemic metabolic collapse that originates right in the digestive system. Most of us will never face the extreme lethality of total sleep deprivation, but millions of people are currently subjecting themselves to a milder version of this exact process through chronic partial sleep debt. This graph shows the U-shaped mortality curve associated with human sleep habits. It charts sleep duration against overall mortality risk, and it reveals a sharp statistical spike in all-cause mortality when humans sleep for less than 7 hours a night. Operating on the left side of this curve triggers a cascade of long-term health failures. The accumulated debt elevates blood pressure, severely suppresses the immune system, and creates a much higher risk for cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. And the brain's ultimate defense mechanism against this exhaustion, those uncontrollable local microsleeps, turns deadly in the real world. A fraction of a second of forced neurological rest while driving a car or operating heavy machinery frequently leads to fatal accidents. When modern workers chronically cut their sleep short, they are triggering the exact same biological pathways of oxidative stress and physiological collapse seen in the lethal animal models. They are simply drawing the damage out over years instead of days. We need to stop viewing sleep as a passive luxury or an inactive state of doing nothing. It is a highly active, biologically mandatory clearance system. While you rest, your body goes to work neutralizing toxic reactive oxygen species in the gut, repairing damaged synapses in the brain, and stabilizing your autonomic nervous system. We have built a modern environment filled with artificial light and constant demands, completely disconnected from our evolutionary origins. But we cannot out-engineer our own biology. Without the strict daily imperative of rest, the human system inevitably destroys itself.